Hi there, Natalie with you today with a few ideas on how to use the Virginia Builder stamp set to create a couple cards and just show you how versatile this stamp set can be when creating your projects. So let's get started. The Virginia Builder stamp set is part of the June 2020 release from Altenew, and this is a beautiful and versatile stamp as it creates or can help you create actually a bunch of flowers. The stamp comes with around, if I'm not mistaken, 8 sentiments, and also different flowers that already come in a bunch, or you can create the separate images to create your own bunch of flowers. So I want to give you two different ideas on how to create cards using this stamp set. For my first one, I'm gonna also use the new ink blending tool. This is one that just Altenew released in June, and I want to create a mixed media background for my card. So I've already cut 2 pieces of a heavy cardstock. This is 110 pounds, and all I'm going to do is use the Misty Morning ink, the crisp ink from Altenew. I have the mini cube set, and I'm collecting ink with my blending tool, and you're gonna see that I've placed a paper underneath my card panel so that when I start adding, or in this case blending the ink into my panel, I don't create a harsh line that the ink produces when it sits at the in the base of the brush. So it's always a good idea to start your blending outside of the cardstock. So you're gonna see that I'm going on a circular motion, and I'm not gonna cover the card. I just want to cover a small section of it, and I'm gonna place everything on the left hand side of my panel. So I'm just going on a circular motion, soft circles, and I'm just gonna deepen the color. So I'm gonna keep going on the same spot until I get the depth of color that I'm looking for. And you're gonna see that very little circles, just gonna create a semicircle, and once I'm done, I'm gonna set it aside to dry completely. Make sure the ink settles before I keep adding my next layer of mixed media. So now that I'm done, I'm just gonna set it aside, and actually the brush, it's super easy to work with, very handy, and the coverage is excellent, and there's very little that you have to clean after you've applied your ink, because pretty much it allows you to deposit all the ink onto the paper. So now that my panel has set, the ink has set, I'm actually going to add a little bit of texture. For this, I'm going to use the embossing paste from Altenew and the Feeling Dotty stencil, and you're gonna see that I picked just a little bit of the paste, and I'm gonna actually create the impression by dragging the paste on top of the stencil using a palette knife. And I just want to make sure that I cover enough of the area inside of the ink that I blended. So again, I'm going to set that aside to dry, and while that's drying, I'm going to start working on the flowers that are going to use, or that are going to become the focal point for this project. And in this case, I want to use the separate flower images that come in the stamp set. I want to create my own bouquet, and I want this to be the center piece of my card, or the focal point. So for this, I am stamping the images using the Obsidian black ink. It's just very crisp ink that's going to create those beautiful perfect edges. So I'm going to make sure that I stamp, I'm going to say one of each of the flower of the buds, and I'm gonna stamp 2 of the leaves, one of the of each of the leaves. I might not use all of them, but I at least have the images. Now I want to keep the images pretty white in a way. I want to add just a little bit of detail, and for this I'm going to use the artist markers. I'm going to use the set D and E. So I'm going to go with the lighter shade of pink, and all I'm going to do is literally just kind of flicker the I'm going to start from the lighter color. So I'm just going to flicker the tip of the marker from the center of the flower towards the end of each of the petals. So I just want to make sure that I add color just to the center of the flower. Like I said, I want to keep everything really white. That's one of the reasons why I added the mixed media background. It's just going to make the flower stand out. I want the details to show. So I want to keep I'm going to say like relatively white. So you're gonna see that all I'm doing is just with the lightest color, just flickering the brush in this case, because I'm using the brush side of the marker from the center of the flower towards the end of the petal. Now to start adding detail, I'm gonna come in with the next darker color, and you're gonna see that I'm just picking a little bit of the color by touching the tip of the lighter marker to the tip of the marker, and that's just gonna pick up a bit of the color, so I'm able to start adding shades to the center of the flowers, especially when they're closer, where the two petals meet, or when they're closer to the center. Again, I'm just using small little flickering motion to add the detail. I just want to have those little lines that you see in the petals represented on my painting. And actually, I prefer using watercolor, but it's always nice to try something different, and I thought that this would be a great perfect space or place to use my artist markers. So all I'm doing right now is I'm gonna go in with the darker marker, and I'm just adding adding more shading to some of the areas, especially where the petals meet, towards the center of the petal. And just to finish my little flower, you're gonna see that I'm gonna start adding little dots, and by the dots I'm just gonna kind of stretch them towards the end of the petal, and I'm gonna do this with the lighter marker, and that's just gonna create that shading and kind of extend the color from the center to the outer edge of the petal. And that's all I'm gonna do for my flowers. You're gonna see that I'm gonna take them off camera and continue working on them. Now some of these flowers actually have the little buds or the little centers of the flowers that actually touch the leaves. So for that I'm gonna use the green marker. I think I'm using Parrot to detail that. But before I do that, I also wanna detail the centers of the flowers. And like I said before, I wanna keep them very white. So I'm gonna come in with my little gel pen, and I actually use a zebra gel pen, and I'm just gonna dot the center of each one of the little pistils of the flowers, and that's just gonna make them stand out and add more detail to the flowers. So right now I've already, the ones that I've painted the little centers, so I'm gonna go in with the green marker. Like I said, this is Parrot, this is from set E if I'm not mistaken, and all I'm doing is just coloring the entire image of the bud part of the flower. And you're gonna see that I'm gonna this is moss, I'm just gonna come in and kind of delineate just the bottom of the round part of the flower, just to create that shading. And then I'm just gonna come in again with Parrot and just kind of blend the two colors together. And then when I took it out of camera and just finished coloring all my leaves and the rest of the flowers. So now that everything is ready, you're gonna see that I'm just kind of the idea of what I want to create, and I want to make sure that my cluster of flowers sits right in the center of the mixed media that I created on the card panel. So now that I have the idea how everything is gonna sit, I'm actually gonna bring the new metallic thread, and this is actually really nice thread. It's first of all, it's metallic, but because the way it's in the spool, it's easy to create I'm gonna say little bundles of thread to help you add texture onto your pages. There's so much you can do with it, and I love it. So you're gonna see that I'm just gonna wrap a piece of, this is antique gold thread. I'm gonna wrap a piece of it around my fingers, and then literally I'm gonna drop it on top of my mixed media, and you're gonna see that it looks like literally like tangled tape. So I'm not gonna touch it, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and take a piece of double-sided tape and just put it on top of it, and then that's gonna keep it in place. And then I'm just gonna peel the little cover, and then start building my cluster on top of it. And because the double-sided tape is clear, you won't see it, especially because I'm adding the flowers on top of it, so a lot of it's gonna be hidden. Now to add my flowers, I am gonna add a little bit of foam adhesive behind them just to give it some dimension, and I'm gonna make sure that some of the leaves are actually, I'm gonna tuck them underneath the thread that I added, just to add more texture and make sure the metallic shine also comes through. And that's pretty much all that I'm gonna do for my cluster. Now I struggled a little bit, not struggle, I just went to look for a sentiment that actually fit in that area, and actually I'm gonna use one of the sentiments that comes in the BERGENIA Gold stamp set, Virginia Builder, stamp set, and it says hello gorgeous. So it actually, stay gorgeous. It actually fits nicely at the bottom of my mixed media. So I'm going to use again black obsidian ink just because I have the same color going in the flowers, and I'm going to stamp it right at the bottom, like I said, the bottom right corner of my panel. After that, you're gonna see that I added a little bit of foam adhesive behind my panel just to prop it from the card. And all I'm doing right now is adding a little bit of sequin. I am using antique gold sequins and also the satin white sequins for this card. Once that's in place, I'm just gonna set that aside to set, and I'm gonna continue working with my second idea. And for this, I'm gonna keep it very plain, very simple, and I'm gonna actually use just the stamp set. Even though I have the mask, I decided that I want to show you a very simple idea, very classic, very clean card that you can create now with the bunch of the flowers that comes in the stamp set. Again, I'm using black obsidian ink, and I've already created my card panel, and all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stamp the images kind of coming off the card. I'm gonna say a little border. I always think of it as a picture border or a picture corner, so I want to make sure that it kind of creates an inverted L on my card panel. And I make sure that when I stamp it, you see it in the images, that I don't touch the flower, so it looks like a continuous bunch, like I said, an inverted L. And I'm gonna set that aside so the ink sets completely, and I'm gonna start working on just building my card. For this, I'm gonna use the navy splatter washi tape, and I'm just gonna cover the front panel or the front of my card with the washi tape. It's a little bit wider. You saw that I used my decal applicator. You can also use a gift card or an old credit card, whatever that's going to give you a flat edge, and that's going to help you push the washi and make sure there's no bubbles when you apply it onto the surface. Once I have it in place, I just cut the extras, and then all I'm doing is I trim the card panel that I stamped the image a little bit smaller, just so the background shows. And outside of the camera, I use my mini die cutter and the script word die set. I love the word hugs, so I make sure that I cut it 3 times, 2 from heavy white cardstock and 1 from glitter gold paper. And I'm just gonna glue these 3 together, kind of stack them, making sure that the glitter paper is on top, and that's gonna bring the shine onto the paper. So you're gonna see right now, all I'm doing is using some connect glue just to keep the sentiment, in this case, together, and then I'm gonna glue it straight onto the white space that I have left over on the card. Like I said, very simple, very clean card. Once I have that in place, you're gonna see that I'm actually gonna bring a few sequins. For this, I'm gonna use the antique gold. Yes, the antique gold sequin. And I'm also gonna come in with I think you see it right now, I'm gonna come in with my gold pen. I actually have a gold pen. This one is an old zebra pen that I have in my stash, and again, like I did in the first card, I'm gonna detail the center of the flowers. Now this time, again, I'm just gonna go to the little circles. If you see, I'm gonna actually create it, I zoom into so you can see it. The center of each one of the Virginia flowers has a little pistil that ends in a circular, kind of a little bud. So I'm making sure that that little white space that actually gets a gold dot, and that's just gonna get all the gold from the background and in the sentiment and in the sequence together. And this is all for today. You're gonna see how one single stamp set can create 2 different cards. One is very simple and easy to construct. The other one is also very simple to construct, but it has some mixed media and quite a bit of texture. And I hope you try it. As always, don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions, and don't forget to check everything that I've used to create these cards. I've added all the description of the materials that I use, and you can find in the shop. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you soon, guys. Take care.